Hi, this is Chazz Palminteri. Welcome to the Chazz Palminteri podcast. And before we start, I'd like to remind you, if you like what you hear, if you like what you see, please subscribe, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. We got a lot of great guests on our show. And don't forget Neighborhood Logic. You don't have to go see a shrink. Just send your questions in to me on Neighborhood Logic and Chazz Palminteri Show at gmail.com, and we'll see how the Neighborhood Logic does. We have a great guest today. Mr. Joe Pantoliano is going to be with us. Hi, Joey. How are you?
Hello. Hi, it's Chazz.
Joey, let me tell you something about Joey. Joey's not only is a great actor, he's very modest. Joey Pants has made over 150 films. 150. His earlier roles, he was on MASH in 1983. The great comedy Risky Business with Tom Cruise, Hill Street Blues, The Goonies, La Bamba, Empire of the Sun with Steven Spielberg, The Fugitive, NYPD Blue, Memento, Bad Boys, and also The Matrix. And Mr. Pantoliano has won a Primetime Emmy for Outstanding Supporting Actor as Ralphie Carletto in the drama season Sopranos. Joey, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chazz. Of those 150 movies, only 2 were watchable.
Go get lost. You see what I mean? He loves self-deprecation. He just loves it. Come on, The Fugitive, Risky Business, so many great movies he did. Joey, at one point, it was a joke in Hollywood. I remember in the 90s when people would say, Joey Pants was in my wedding video. You were in every movie ever made. People were laughing, saying, is Joey Pants in every freaking movie? It was like amazing, Joey. Come on.
Those were the days. They used to say, Joey, I saw a movie Saturday night, and surprisingly, you weren't in it.
That is great, Joey. Oh, my God. Joey, so you got to tell us. I know you started so young. What would you say was your first kind of big break, Joey?
You know, it was like 1,000 little breaks. I like Buffo, Big Job.
Well, what about From Here to Eternity? Was that one?
I would have said that. Yeah, I was. That was like everybody in town wanted it in on that. It was a remake of the book. It was to be back in the late 70s. They were doing miniseries. Miniseries were big. MOWs were big,
right.
And this was something that everybody was waiting to see. And A-list movie stars were in it. Natalie Wood. So yeah, that was a big break, and also on a public relations level, the idea that Frank Sinatra had played Maggio and it resurrected his career, and he was from Hoboken, and here I was beginning a career, and I too was from Hoboken, was a big PR thing.
Well, let me tell you something quickly about that. I told you the story. I got to know Frank Sinatra pretty well, and I had dinner with him, and he said to me once, I mentioned your name. I said, I'm really good friends with Joey Pants. And he said, yeah, I know Joey Pants, who he is. He goes, you tell Joey Pants, no matter how famous or how big he gets, he'll always be number 2 from Hoboken.
Yeah, he'll never be the most famous guy from Hoboken.
You can never be the most famous guy from Hoboken. But anyway, so go ahead, Joey. Continue.
So I did that. That was something that I remember. I remember actually saying to some friends that and I was 26 years old, so I was still a kid.
Wow.
But that I felt like I had a place in the industry. That
wow.
My worries could be over, and then they turned it into a TV series and offered me a lot of money. I mean, a big package, like almost $500,000. And if you recall, doing television or getting locked into television in those days was a dangerous
Right.
idea. And I wanted to be in the movies. And so I said no. And I ran out of money. And I actually had to borrow to pay back taxes. I had to borrow $6,000 for my back taxes from Robert Wagner and Natalie Wood. And my friend, I don't know if you knew Matty Action. He was from Hoboken, and he had a restaurant called Mateo's on Westwood Boulevard.
Sure.
And so he gave me a job as a waiter, and that corresponded with the opening of the miniseries on NBC. And so I was waiting tables while the show was airing, and it got to be somewhat embarrassing. People were asking me to sign their menus. And Sunday was always a big night at Mateo's.
Sundays, that's right.
All the celebrities, all the old movie stars, old Hollywood. I got to meet George Raft, and I waited on Ethel Merman and Red Buttons and Lucille Ball.
Wow.
Fernando Lamas and Esther Williams. And this one night, he said, Esther, this is Joe Pantoliano. He played Frank's part in From Here to Eternity. And he said, are you here? He said, now this is an actor, Esther. This is an actor. He said, are you here doing research? You must be here. You must be here doing research for your next role. I said, no, not really. And he wouldn't believe me. I said, no, really, I'm just waiting tables. Because as you remember, in New York City, it was a whole different thing. New York City, you wait, you got a job, the job's over, you need money, you wait tables. And at that point in my life, I'd rather wait tables than, make all this money and doing something that might hurt me down the line. But that wasn't the case in Hollywood. It was all about image and
image, right. Right.
My agent at the time, said, you got to get out of there. And they gave me, money to live on for 3-4 months. But after I did From Here to Eternity, I didn't work for 12 months.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. But I mean, Joe, you were in some great movie. I mean, La Bamba. I always thought La Bamba was an underrated movie. I thought that was a great movie you did. And Risky Business. When you were doing that with Tom Cruise, obviously Tom was he was really not known. He wasn't the Tom Cruise.
He was very known. He was, I think
did you guys know this was going to be great, or you didn't know?
No. I saw it at that time. They were doing Fast Mountain Ridge. They were doing all these kid high school movies. And, the idea of being in this high school movie, it was a high school movie. We did a low budget. We were all in honey wagons. Everybody I think we all got scale.
Wow.
So Rebecca De Mornay, Tom Cruise, we're all in honey wagons. And it was a big hit. But it also turned out to be incredibly well done.
Yes. Incredibly well done. I mean, I think about that. Ray Villalobos, who shot that movie, shot a Bronx Tale. I remember that. I remember that when I met Ray when he was on our film A Bronx Tale. I said, you shot Risky Business, and he said yes, and he did a masterful job with that. The director, too.
His background was in the Navy. He was a Navy photographer. That's how he learned.
Joey, who directed Risky Business?
Paul Brickman. He also wrote it.
Oh God, that was just Paul Brickman. I want to make sure I mention him.
John Avnet and Steve Tisch. All of these young guys who went on to have brilliant careers in their own. Avnet directed Fried Green Tomatoes, and he shot Second Unit on Risky Business.
I always like to speak to actors and tell them and find out how they started, because there's so many young actors and writers, directors out there who, they just think this thing happens with somebody. It's a break. You show up. I always tell people, you got to show up. You show up, you do the best you can, and you hope for a break. We all came from the same place. You just heard Joey Pants talk about how we had to borrow money. I had to borrow money. I worked as a bouncer. So this is the business as we have chosen, as Lee Strasberg said in The Godfather, the business we have chosen. So, I mean, as far as The Sopranos, Joey, What was that like? I mean, you won an Emmy for that. Did you when you read the character? He's not a very likable character, but you're such a likable guy, but you play these despicable characters, and it's amazing how you do that. Did you like that role a lot when you saw it?
Well, you know, David Chase was an old friend. I met David through Larry Connor. That's how far back we go. Larry
Wow.
wrote and produced a movie called The In Crowd about the dance shows in Philadelphia. And so I got to meet David socially. And after From Here to Eternity, he was a writer on the Rockford Files. Mita Rosenberg was the EP, and
Right.
they brought me in. They were interested in me to do something like a backdoor pilot, if you remember what those were. They would introduce characters on a TV show, and then if the
Right.
characters scored well, they would make a pilot for those characters. And so David was interested in me for that. It didn't turn out, but we always stayed in touch. And then I had done a show that I was very proud of being a part of called Easy Streets that Bobby
Yes.
Moresco, Paul Haggis created. And I thought that was really interesting. And it kind of broke my heart when we failed on network television. It was just a year before The Sopranos.
Right.
So,
I remember when I saw that and I told you, I said, Joey, I don't know if this pilot's going to go. And you said, why? I said, it's just too good.
yeah.
It was too good. It was just so
And
wonderfully
we got to
done.
do, I think we got to, I mean, it was Les Moonvest's first year as the head of CBS. And we got to shoot, I think, 8 or 9 of them.
Oh, they were great.
But what was my point?
Well,
So I was heartbroken. This gangster stuff doesn't work. And then David was casting The Sopranos, and I was like, nah, I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want anything to do. Gangster shows don't work on television. And so that following year, that was going into season 2, David asked me to come and meet the writing staff, and we talked, and he said, there's a character this season, and I looked at it. I said, you know, David, if I do this, I really want it to be something for me too. I mean, it's good for you to have me play this part, but I want it to be a mutual situation where I can, you know, hit doubles, at least doubles. And so I said, oh, okay, let me think about it. And then the following year, he said, listen, there's a character, and this is all he said. I said yes based on you know, David. But
Yeah.
he said, look, it's a 2-year, you know, it's 2 years, it's 2 seasons. He's a scumbag, but they're all scumbags. I want him to be, you know, funny. He's going to come up against Tony, you know, and in the end, he's going to lose out to Tony. And that's all he said. And then I said, well, yeah, okay, but, you know, HBO money situation has got to be right. Otherwise, knock me off the table now. So they knocked me off the table. And you probably won't remember this, but we went, now at that point, I had gone to visit Tony Spiridakis. I was doing an Eddie Murphy movie in Montreal. And I went to stay in Connecticut, and I wanted to move the family back to Connecticut. You were building your house. And we were in California, and we went to Argo. Is that the name of the restaurant?
Argo, yes. Argo.
Yeah, Paulie's place. And we were sitting there, and it was some kind of awards after dinner party for casting directors. And Sheila Jaffe and Georgie M. Walker, Paulie said, look, I got no room for him. I let him sit with you guys. The 4 of you could take this table of 4. And I said, all right, sure. So we did. And we started talking, and Georgianne, unbeknownst to me, she said, where are you moving to Connecticut? I said, Wilton. She said, we live in Wilton. And based on that brief conversation, she knew that this part that I had said no to was being recast. And so I got another call a few days later from my agent saying, look, they want you, they'll give you everything yet we asked for, but you got to leave in 2 days. So when I went to start the Sopranos, I had to catch up. I had 3 shows that to shoot,
Wow.
reshoot all of those episodes that figured in my character. And then, so I had to catch up. So I didn't really have much time to think, and I didn't have HBO. To this day, I don't have HBO. So David sent me like 4 or 5 of best of episodes to give me an idea what the show was about. But there was never any conversation. I mean, I think I was in episode 7 when I found out that my character had a cocaine addiction. I wasn't playing that. I didn't know. They didn't tell me.
But Joey, I know you say that, but you were great. I mean, you were really great on it. Obviously, the fans love you. You primetime Emmy. I mean, they don't give those away. I mean, I just thought it was a great showcase for you. I just thought you were great in it, Joey.
Yeah. When you got writing like that, it's so much fun. It's just so much fun. You don't have to do anything. You just kind of lean into let the writing carry you.
Right. Well, I'm sure you were very devastated when you heard that James passed away.
Oh, sure. I mean,
you must have became good friends with him, right?
I had a great working relationship with him, and he was always very supportive. The things that I was advocating. He was one of the first people that helped with No Kidding Me Too, and he would come to the fundraisers.
Wow.
He was the most generous. He had almost a disdain, like, it's projection on my part. I'm not a doctor, but sometimes I felt like he was like, why is this happening to me? I'm just a fat guy from New Jersey. It's like, the fuck. And so he would shower those he loved with his good fortune. He would say, I don't want it. Even we did the cover for a magazine, and I knew the owner of the magazine, and he said, look, we want to get Gandolfini. Can you put in a good word? And I said, look, they want, cigar aficionado. What do you say? I mean, don't shoot the messenger. It's not my job, but I'm just relaying a message. And he said, well, I'll do it if they put you on the cover too. So I said, okay. Hey, Marvin, yeah. But by the time we got to the photo shoot, he got everybody on the cover.
God.
And I won't do it unless Dominic. I won't do it unless Junior. I won't. But that, it was like everybody.
Yeah, he was amazing. He actually, I heard that he actually took money out of his salary and gave it to the cast. I mean, I heard this guy was pretty amazing. Joey, when you worked on The Sopranos,
the crew too. Don't forget the crew. He gave
the crew.
The crew members too.
Yeah, Joey, did they allow any improvisation like Scorsese does on The Sopranos, or you had to do every word exactly the same?
No, if it was a good idea, it's sometimes if I had an idea, like it was a behavioral idea that, they'd call upstairs.
Right.
They always have the tone writer that's on the set.
Oh.
And then he said, oh, let me ask. Let's ask. And, so it would either be, yeah, go ahead, try, or nah, I don't like it, or do it both ways. Like
okay.
Everybody.
Wow. And Joey, I mean, what would advice? I always like to ask, I know it's hard for you to say, but what is your advice? And don't be negative now. What's your advice to young actors who want to get in the business? Like, we've been doing it a long time. I mean, if they really believe in their heart that they're talented and they have to do it, there is no alternative for them. What would you suggest they do?
I would never be negative, but I would say something like, are you fucking crazy? Because I was crazy. You were crazy.
Yes.
We had stars in our eyes.
Right.
It's a disease. Being in a creative marketplace was a disease 30 years ago, but at least you got paid. At least they give you or, you know, you got a job, you could make $2,000-3,000 for a week's work. You know, it's like, now I've been semi-retired since I'm 18 years old. That's what show business is. A great year for an actor is 12 weeks. Holy shit. You know, you only had to work 10 weeks to make your nut, to make your year.
Wow.
Right?
Right.
Now it's like, I kid around with my agent all the time. I say, who I haven't talked to since 2019, because everything is like texting now, right?
Right.
In the old days, they call you up, hey, Chazz, you got an offer? If you had 2 agents, you knew it was a big offer. Hold on for so-and-so and so-and-so.
That's
now
right.
It's like, oh, yeah, listen, here, you got an offer, this. And you never talk to them.
Right.
But the idea of back in the old days, in the good old days, you did one for the money, one for the art, or one for the location. So most of the shitty movies I did was because they were paying me a great deal of money. Now they want you to work for nothing, even on the shitty movies.
Right.
They've desensitized your wanting to work. For what? I'm going to go and work for nothing?
Yeah, you're right. I agree. I mean, I always felt you have to give me something. If you're not going to pay me really well, then the part better be absolutely unbelievable. But you can't give me a shit part and no money. That just doesn't work. I won't do it. You know, I know what you're saying.
So people who want to be in show business, you know, I kind of anticipated you were going to ask this question.
I always ask.
My advice, I think acting is silly now, because everybody's,
oh God,
in order to build up, you know, their resume, everybody's becoming like commentators, you know, talking heads. Everybody's encouraged to be on Instagram and building, and you're only considered not for your talent, but the numbers that you have on Instagram and Facebook by your following. So my advice is to, you know, be a talking head on some MSNBC or Fox News.
Right.
Or,
you know, some of these TikTok people, they have like 60 million followers, and they just go on there and they dance or something. It's like the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
A photograph of a tube of toothpaste and make $100 million. I can't even imagine what these people are making. Because they have followers of that size, 30 million, 40 million, 50 million. It's crazy, you know, and it's
Joey. I know it's true, but was your mom? Because I know it's kind of legendary, but was your mom really a bookie?
Yeah, she in the summertime, we'd go down to Long Branch, New Jersey, and she would take the numbers for the Daily Double and the Mutual Handle.
Right.
And she covered, we were in a boarding house, and she covered Newark, New Jersey house, East Orange, Jersey City, and Hoboken. And she would take the receipts. There was a swimming pool on the corner, about 300-400 yard walk, and there was a bakery, and that was the guy. And so she would put the receipts and the money in my bathing suit pocket, the inside, and I would give the guy the money. So I was a runner at 7, 8 years old. I would get a Krella.
You were in the mob at 7, 8.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, do you have fond memories of growing up in Hoboken?
Yeah, well, it was frightening. It was a frightening place to grow up.
Right.
I took a lot of beatings, and we lived in the projects. We were on welfare for a good portion of time, and so you needed to be with your clique if you got caught alone. But
was your mom and dad? Was your mom and dad, were they proud of you being an actor?
Oh, eventually. I mean, they were concerned. Like,
they were concerned.
I think it was. You shouldn't ask for that much. You're not. We're not entitled to have those kinds of dreams.
Wow.
My father, Dominic Pantoliano, was like, Jesus Christ. It's almost like, what do you want to do that for? Why don't you take the fireman's test?
Right.
Hoboken was like this little kind of center of, they understood how politics worked until you work with a politician so that he become a councilman, and then
Wow.
you had it in, you could maybe get a job as a garbage cleaner. My Uncle Popeye was a dog catcher. Another cousin became a cop. The more people you knew who
Right.
had political power, that's how it worked. So they were like, oh, Jesus Christ, this kid's gonna, what are these, the Italians used to call, the
Wow.
dopey relative, a gavone.
I got one.
He's a gavone.
Now, Joey, and I definitely want to talk about this. You're a published author. You wrote a couple of books, and you wrote about your, and I'm sure it's okay to say, because when you had a case of, depression, and you started this incredible, wonderful organization called No Kidding Me Too. And why don't you tell us a little bit about that, Joey?
Well, the first book, my first book was Who's Sorry Now? It was a New York Times bestseller, and it really was the story of the first 17 years of my life before I got on the bus to go to New York to become an actor. And that was very successful. And then they wanted me to tell stories about the characters in my life when I was in Hollywood, and I wasn't ready to do that. But that, when 9/11 happened, 2001, when those buildings went down, something shook the foundation, something that I had been protecting and insulating myself with objects and success. It kind of,
it shook a lot of people up.
Shook out the foundation of this very fragile foundation that was who I was, and this depression set in. And long story short, as I got help, as I was diagnosed, I was relieved. I felt like, oh, it's not me, because I thought it was me. I thought it was weakness. I thought it was a character flaw in who I was. And so the doctor says, no, this is a brain disease. And I was like, yay. But then I started finding that I was being discriminated against through show business. I couldn't get insured to do a movie because I was taking antidepressants. And they said, well, if he signs a waiver identifying us, so if he has a nervous breakdown or goes off on the wagon and causes a slowdown or stoppage to production, it's going to be on him. It's on Joey. If he's willing to sign that, he can do the job. So I asked my lawyer, I said, well, what if I have a heart attack? I take statins because I have a history of heart disease, just like I have a history of mental disease in my family. And he said, well, no, that's okay. You can have a heart attack and you're all right. They'll cover your heart.
Wow.
Cover my heart, but they're discriminating against my brain. And that's when I said, no, that's not right. And I started talking to a lot of celebrities, successful show business people that would say to me, well, Joey, don't tell them. I don't tell them. So I discovered that a lot of my friends were taking these antidepressants and antipsychotics and what have you, but you don't tell them. Well, I said, no. And that's when I started going public, and I started this thing. And because I was, Tony Goldwyn and I were co-presidents of the Creative Coalition, I had met people how, to use lobbying for a good cause. And that's when we started No Kidding Me Too, which is now, led to the podcast that I do with Daniella Pantoliano.
Well, that's great. I mean, I applaud you for that, Joey, for bringing, mental illness out in the open, and for people who say, and that's how the title came, because you would talk to someone, right, and they would go, really? No kidding, me too. Right. That's how many people have said that to you about you were taking a certain, drugs for your mental depression. They would say, oh, no kidding, me too. And I really applaud you for that, Joey. I mean,
And then the Me Too movement stole my title.
that's right. They did, Joey Pants.
I do have one question
Oh,
here.
my producer, that's Michael, he's got a question for you. Go ahead.
Go, Mike.
Is there a movie you've ever been in that you refuse to watch or you never have watched?
Well, like the great Billy Wilder once said, most of my movies I loathe less than others. You know, I just don't get a kick out of seeing myself, especially now in my old age. You know, it's like to see myself in something that I've done recently, and I got a it's like, who the hell is that old guy? It's like, and to see yourself, to see myself in a 360-degree frame,
Right.
it's not a pretty picture.
Oh,
Because in my
Joey,
mind's eye, I'm still an Adonis, you know?
you look fantastic. You know, it's funny. I always tell people there's about 7 or 8 movies that I never saw that I did. I never saw them. I really just don't. I don't know. I have no interest to see them.
Have we talked about this? You ever see something that I don't even remember shooting it?
Yes.
Does that happen to you? Right?
That's scary. That's scary, Joey. I have to say, that is scary. When I go, when did I shoot that? Where was I? And I said, I'm watching this person do the lines, and I'm going, I don't remember that. Holy
It's fantastic.
God.
That's probably my favorite thing in the whole world. You know, is like going, holy shit.
I don't
But when
even
you see
remember.
actors that you admire and you go, before you say hello, you go, now, did I work with this guy? Or
Exactly. And you don't want to say you worked together if you didn't work together.
mm-hmm.
And if you did work together and you don't remember, that's horrible. It's I mean, that's a terrible feeling. I mean, Joey, were you on Broadway? You were on Broadway with
Yeah, I did Frankie and Johnny.
Frankie and Johnny on Broadway. Did you enjoy doing Broadway?
Oh, sure. I mean, you know, that was a dream. I remember being a kid walking down those streets, and
Right.
the idea of, you know, I did it at the Belasco Theater. The producers said, listen, we got a problem that we think you're going to like the solution. We got the marquee, and then up in lights above the marquee. Now, we just don't have enough room because it's Rosie Perez. It was a 2-character play. So Rosie Perez, Joe Pantoliano on the marquee we can do, but up in the lights is just not enough space. So can we put Joey Pants? So I said, sure. So it said Joey Pants up in lights and Joe Pantoliano at the bottom. That was fun.
That's fun. Joey, you've done stage, you've done film, you've done television. You won an Emmy. You started this incredible organization. No kidding, Me Too. I mean, you have an incredible life. You have a wonderful wife, your children.
4 grandkids now.
Your kids, they're all blessed, all healthy, wonderful kids. And that's what I always say, you know, you look at a person, look at their kids, and you have wonderful children. And your wife, Nancy, like, from the day you met her, I always said to you, how did you get a woman this beautiful? I do not understand it, but absolutely stunning, wonderful woman. Joey, it's been a pleasure having you. Anything you got coming up that you want to talk about before we sign off?
You know, I've been doing this reincarnating on a half-hour comedy that I really enjoy doing, called Tacoma FD. It's the guys that did Super Trooper, so it's really balls out slapstick comedy. So I got that coming out, and I've got a horror movie, a Korean film I did called Hide and Seek. But you know, and people, you know, tune into our podcast, Daniella Pantoliano, my podcast. That's it.
Oh, that's right. You got to go on Joey Pantoliano's podcast. Watch it. It's absolutely hysterical. Joey tells you great stories about his life. As you can see, Joey Pants is a hell of a character, and a good friend. And I want to thank you, Joey, for coming on the show.
Thank you, Chazz. God bless you. I love you very much. And I wish you the best and give my love to everybody.
I will,
And
Joey.
tell
God bless.
Dante congrats on the graduation.
I will tell my son congrats on graduating from Berkeley, and congratulations on all those grandchildren you have. God bless you.
Thank you. I'll talk to
Bye.
you soon.